Right. Welcome, everyone. As you're joining us, please drop in the chat where you're joining us from. We have a couple of people. So we have Kris from Singlewire, and he is in Wisconsin. And we have Jay from Saline in Michigan. And we have Kris from Necedah in Wisconsin joining. So yeah, while you're joining us, just drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Love to see that. Let's see. We have Gary from upstate New York. Nice. Tom from Michigan. From Bad Axe, Michigan. Cool. Somebody from Ohio. A couple people from Ohio. We got some more Wisconsin people. Patrick is joining from Wisconsin. Tim is joining from South Carolina. Welcome, Tim. Jack is joining from North Carolina. A couple more people from New York, Minnesota. That's also one of my favorite states, Minnesota. Everybody I meet from Minnesota is so great. The accent, love it. Damon's joined from Louisiana. A couple more Michigan, New York, very popular. We have Daniel from Wisconsin. I hope all of you know each other. All the Wisconsin people know each other. All of the Michigan people, in my mind, that's how it is. We have John from New Jersey. Brandon from Wisconsin. Nice. Cool. Oh, we have Joe from New York. Hey, Joe, I think I sent you an email before. You might have ignored me. Oh, Rudy's from Florida, New York. That's probably confusing times when you tell people where you're from. Michael's from Whitney, New York. All right, we're going to give everybody one more minute to join. While you're joining us, drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Sometimes we have people from really exotic locations. We've had people from like Spain, South Africa before. That was really cool. I think this one's going to be a lot of tech directors from the United States. Still cool. Not as exotic. That's fine. All right. So if you're joining us, drop in the chat where you're joining us from. Love to see that. You can drop any questions you have in the chat or in the Q&A. We are going to have a dedicated time to ask questions. So you can also save them for the end. And let's get started. So welcome, everybody. My name is Jennifer. I'm the Growth Marketing Manager here at Rise Vision. This is a collaborative session between Rise Vision and Singlewire. So we have Kris from Singlewire, and then we also have two tech directors with us, two of my favorite tech directors. We have Jay Grossman from Saline in Michigan, and we have Kris Saylor from Necedah in Wisconsin. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Director's Guide to Seamless Tech Integration with Rise Vision and Singlewire software. So we're going to be talking all about digital signage and emergency alerts today. I know this agenda looks overwhelming, but it's not going to be that bad. So we're going to go over Rise Vision and Singlewire, just introduce you to the two companies if you're brand new to us. I'm going to introduce you to our panelists, Jay and Kris. We're going to talk about some challenges in schools today, just to kind of get the conversation started and get into that headspace of what's going on in schools right now. And then we're going to talk about the importance of digital signage and how it can be used in schools, the role of emergency alerts in schools and how important those are. And then we're going to dive into two case studies. So our two panelists are going to be sharing how their schools use Rise Vision and Singlewire. And then we're going to talk briefly about if you're implementing this into your school or your school district, some of the tips to doing that. And then we're going to end with a Q&A session. So this session will be available as a recording. I'm going to email it out to everybody afterwards. And like I said, I encourage you to drop any chat or questions in the chat or use the Q&A feature. Also, at the end of the session, we're going to be doing a draw for a Rise Vision media player and a $100 gift card courtesy of Singlewire. So somebody's going to be walking away with a couple little prizes. All right. So I'm going to kick us off talking briefly about Rise Vision. So we're the #1 digital signage solution for schools, K-12 schools. Rise Vision helps schools improve communication, increase student involvement, create a positive school culture, and helps increase school safety when used in conjunction with an emergency alert provider. I'm going to turn it over to Kris to give a brief overview of Singlewire.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm Kris. I'm the Director of Communications here at Singlewire Software. If you're not familiar with us, we develop InformaCast, which is a mass notification and incident management software. We work primarily with technology partners like Rise Vision to connect the communication devices that schools already have in place to help deliver critical alerts.
Awesome. Thanks, Kris. All right, and our first panelist is Jay. Jay and I met last May. I actually went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, and hung out at his school for the day, and that was wonderful. So Jay, you've been at Saline for just over 5 years, and you're getting your master's degree in cybersecurity, which I think is really cool. And both Jay and I have dogs with serious underbites, which is the best kind of dog. So welcome, Jay, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And then we have Kris. So he's Director of Technology at Necedah Schools. We just spoke a couple of weeks ago and had a really powerful case study written about his school. So you've been at Necedah for over 26 years, various different roles, teacher, IT, facilities. Now you're coaching, so that's amazing. Some of your responsibilities at the school also include physical security. So we talked a little bit about, all the security measurements that schools have to have in place without making their school feel, a little bit unwelcoming or uninviting. And Kris, you have 4 kids in the community, with your youngest in high school, which is so lovely to hear. So welcome, Kris. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me today. Enjoy it.
Awesome. All right. So I wanted to start off the conversation with some of the current challenges in schools. Obviously, we're talking about communication, which, digital signage is really helpful and helps alleviate that. So one of the things that we came up with that we hear a lot, is that schools are struggling with so many communication channels. We have email, and we have newsletters, and we have the website, and we have social media, and there's just so many media channels to communicate with people. But on the flip side of that, there's also that information overload. So I don't know about your school, but I read that teachers get over 100 emails a day. Look, I can't even imagine getting 100 emails. How do you manage that? So Jay, Kris, what do you think about communication struggles and information overload?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I was just counting in my head, just in our district, how many different things we use. We use Remind, we use School Messenger, we use email, phone, all the social media platforms, our website. We send out communication through our SIS. So that's just what we're sending to parents and families. Like you said, teachers alone, they get emails upwards 100. I get about 400 emails a day. So sifting through all that is just, it's quite overwhelming, and you really can't do all that and your job effectively at the same time.
Mm-hmm. So inbox 0 is never going to be an option for you. No. All right. Kris, what about you? What do you think?
I agree. We have the same issue. There's just so much communication. So the key is to get something that floats to the top of it so people see it. And that's, if you don't, it just gets lost in the clutter.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Another reason that we're here is talking about emergency preparedness. So it's unfortunate that this is a topic that we have to talk about so much in schools, but it's the reality. So between coordinating emergency alerts, drills, responses, there's a ton of stakeholders involved beyond just within the school. It's obviously super complex, super challenging. But that's something that schools need to be prepared for. And then beyond just emergencies, whether it's an intruder or a fire drill or a weather alert, you're also being bombarded through cybersecurity and people trying to steal your information and hack into your systems and change their grades. So Jay, why don't you kind of start us off with cybersecurity? That's obviously your area of expertise. How does that affect schools?
Sure, huge, huge. Cybersecurity is hopefully on the top of every tech director's thought process, and I know it's what keeps me up at night a lot of times. Just making sure that we are prepared, ready for that backup. It's not really anymore an if as much as a when that we're finding out. And you start reading what all these other districts are going through when they get those ransomware attacks, and being prepared, making sure that, doing that table run with our core administrative team so that everybody knows their role. And when that happens, we make sure that we've learned from all the lessons. We've had a few districts around us that have gone through that scenario. And so we've worked very hard with them and our WISD, all of our partners, to make sure we're kind of aware, as well as developing a standard response protocol. This is all very new. And while it's been happening a lot, or not a lot, but more often lately, we've been trying to find, there's a lot of information out there. So what's a good standard? And, we found with Michigan, they've started developing, adopting the I Love You Guys standard response protocol. So we're going to be jumping into that. Just something that we can have as a playbook to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, I love you guys. That's a great organization. So Jay, there's been districts in Michigan who have had like a ransomware attack or some sort of cyber. Wow. All right. And Kris, Kris, one of the major takeaways from the case study that we did on Necedah was the lockdown time. But what are your thoughts on emergency preparedness and getting all of that ready?
What do you mean by emergency preparedness? You mean for cybersecurity stuff or just emergencies in general?
Let's talk about emergencies in general.
Okay. It's just about, for me, it's just having as many devices available for everybody and different ways to communicate as quick as humanly possible. So everything.
So just having layers and layers of responsiveness.
Yeah, and then it's got to be automated, as much automated as possible, as little human interaction as possible, because in a time of crisis, everybody's gonna be fumbling for things and trying to figure out, well, I remember if I log into here, I get this, or type this code 3 times. You don't want that. You want it to be quick, but you also don't want any false alerts going out. So there's a little bit of a balance there, but our focus has been on TVs, phones, every device known to man. If we can get it in front of them, get it audio, get it video or visual, as quick as humanly possible. Right.
Yeah. Speaking of the not the false alarms, but I think we chatted about that is when you originally, or you had Rise Vision hooked up to the weather network and you were getting some of those false positives of emergencies when you're like, oh no, it's just a tornado warning. It's fine. It's just a minor storm, everyone. No need to panic. No need to lock down the school.
Yeah, it didn't differentiate initially between the different kinds of weather alerts, and it was just everything was a weather alert. So if it was a storm watch, we got those hit the TVs and everybody getting scared. So I had to tamper that a little bit.
Right. All right. Nicole from Farmington, Michigan said that they experienced an attempt at least once or twice in the past 3 years for, I'm assuming, cyber security. So it's crazy. Crazy. All right. Well, let's move right along. So talking about digital signage in schools, there's 2 major things that I wanted to share today about how you can use digital signage in schools. So creating that positive school culture, it's really important for providing or fostering an inclusive school environment. So we don't want to just celebrate, just the athletes or just the valedictorians. We can also be celebrating Student of the Month. So a lot of schools that I talk to, they have some sort of student recognition program where they're, some student is doing something super kind or helpful, and they're recognizing that achievement. Hall of Fame. So I talked to New Prague in Wisconsin, and they have a really beautiful Hall of Fame, and then they celebrate, past students, current students, and all sorts of different achievements. And then also one of my favorite ways to create a positive school culture is promoting that culture of reading and literacy. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm always talking about reading. So love the library, love that. We had a school out in Georgia, and they have ways that they're promoting their young readers. So love that. And then school safety, that's what we're really here to talk about. So digital signage helps ensure the safety and security of the school. Increasing accessibility, which is huge, something that we'll talk about later. Some students might have a hearing disability or might just need extra time to understand what's going on. I mean, school can be super overwhelming if you're neurodivergent or something else. And, there's alarms going off, there's people, going around. You might just need an extra second to understand what's going on. So, hold on, my computer is freaking out. All right. So now I want to jump over to Kris. Turn it over to you to talk about some emergency alerts and school safety.
Absolutely. So, and I think, Jay and Kris will cover a lot of this, but just from a broad perspective, information is critical when an emergency occurs, right? So people need to understand what's happening, but they also need to know what they're supposed to do so that they can stay safe. And that's why having intrusive methods to communicate that information, digital signage, getting that visual component, as well as, doing audio, text alerts. We want to avoid passive methods of alerting, right? Things that can be ignored, because the quicker people understand that a message is being sent out, they can start knowing what's happening and they can begin taking the appropriate action. On that same front, you want to make sure that messaging is consistent. So if you are leveraging multiple channels, how do you keep that message the same across every channel that it goes out so that you're not causing confusion, you're not adding stress to an already complicated situation, and you're minimizing those questions that come in because people understand what's happening very concisely. So emergency alerts can, one, help get the message out quickly, but also really help with that comprehension and move from that awareness phase into that action and management phase.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Kris. All right. So now we're going to jump into it. We're going to hear from Jay. So let's talk about the implementation of Rise Vision and InformaCast at Saline. So you guys have had both systems in place for a couple of years. I know that InformaCast did a case study. I think they came and visited you not this past November, but the one before, and we came down in May. So, I think Jay, you're pretty familiar with what's going on or with sharing about this. So one of the quotes that you've said is that Rise Vision and InformaCast is an integral part of Saline's area school safety protocols. And in case of an emergency, critical information reaches all the corners of the school promptly and enhances your overall school safety.
Absolutely.
All right.
Before I get into that, I wanted to just jump into one quick item that we're using Rise Vision for. I thought was a really cool culture building thing for our school district recently with the eclipse that went on and all the schools that were out watching it. We made a shared Google Photos folder, and all the teachers were able to add into that. And so now that's part of one of our Rise Vision slides, was showing off all the classes there, and was really useful. The students loved it. So
yeah, the eclipse, I didn't realize, I thought that was a holiday across the country because they were worried about all these little kids going out and burning their eyeballs.
no, we had a lot of fun, and it turned out to be a really good learning experience and a really good one for our school district. So
I love that.
Safety and why we're here and why we're using this. As Jen said, we've actually been using InformaCast. We started piloting it around 2018. We started with one school because we were looking for a solution that can get communication out to everybody immediately with a single button. Prior to that, we were with our recent bond before that, had increased safety and security by securing our vestibules and installing a lockdown button. But the downside to this was that lockdown button was only able to be activated by one person, and that was the office staff at the building if they were at the desk, and there were no other circumstances. It also only locked the doors, and so you could use a badge to get in. This didn't do any sort of communication to students, staff, or anybody else that might need to, administrators at other buildings. So when we found out InformaCast could work with all this and provide this, or Singlewire with this one button, one touch mass communication, we started piloting it. And one of the things that we found that we were really happy with is because we are such a diverse population with our school, we have students who are colorblind, that have hearing impairments. And with the signage that we're able to use, we're able to address that by not only having an audio alert, but having a scrolling message. We've been able to coordinate the strobe lights that can be utilized with this message to have different colors mean different things, and those colors always be in the same spot. So somebody can look at that immediately and know in one way, shape, or form what's going on. So that was a really wonderful solution that we started bringing in. And then through safety and security grants, we've actually expanded this now to the whole district. After that, we were also incorporating Rise Vision because we were looking for a digital signage. And it just so happened that Rise Vision works with InformaCast, so it made it a very easy sell for us to implement. I had used them in a previous school district, so I was already familiar with Rise Vision and its templates. So once we started coordinating those into slides to work with InformaCast, now not only were we hitting our signs, our overhead speakers, but all the TVs in our building that were, or the district that somebody might see. So our goal was get this communication out to everybody as quick as possible so that everybody can see it and get into a safe spot. And I really think joining those together have helped bring that solution for us.
Nice. Thanks, Jay. One of the insights that I got from your school was when I was visiting was Lisa York. She's one of the special ed teachers, and I think she was really one of the champions for Rise Vision at your school. But you know, it all kind of started when a student missed an announcement because they couldn't hear it. But I just wanted to add this information just so people are aware that you think that having a hearing impairment is not super common, but there's over 300,000 students in the US who are either deaf or hard of hearing, and you know, over 200,000 of those students are enrolled in public school. They don't necessarily have they're not in any special program. So there are students who might not be able to hear those emergency alerts that could be potentially in your schools or in your district. And then visual displays, like Jay touched on, they really help make emergency alerts accessible for all, so that people who need some help hearing or just need a little extra time can hear what's going on. And another one, this quote, it's not exact, but it came from Lisa, that the hidden expectations of emergency drills are now explicit and clear. So great to hear that from her and from your school as well.
She was wonderful. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
She is the reason we were able to bring it in here, started everything with a grant, and has just taken over right without any training. She just took to it and has brought such a vibrance to our middle school that students just love going through and seeing all the stuff. She's broken it up by every grade level so they can see different content, and it's wonderful.
Love that. We'll have to get Lisa on do a webinar. So Jay, let's talk about what you have in terms of your tech stack over at Saline. So why don't you talk us through some of the technology that you guys have?
Sure. So to start back, our backend, we were Cisco, Cisco switches, we were Cisco phones, which really helped because of the single wire integration with Cisco and using the speed dials. We have a lot of televisions and displays throughout the building. We're also using for our mirroring, we're using a mixture of Apple TVs, Chrome boxes, and a screen beam, which allows us to do digital signage right to the device. So when you're not mirroring to it, that device is just running a Rise Vision presentation. For InformaCast, we have a mixture of ceiling speakers. We're using bidirectional speakers, strobe lights, large display clocks. As I mentioned, we have it on our phones because of their integration with Cisco. We're using the desktop app. And then for administrators, we have all of our administrators have the app on their phone, and we're using security groups to make it so that they can activate stuff based on their building, based on security groups, so the right person can access or trigger the right alerts. And we can manage all that pretty centrally.
So I think that my visual here kind of simplifies what you guys really have going on, because it sounds like
Yeah.
sounds like a lot. But I think that the takeaway here is you didn't start with all of these elements, right?
Correct.
Why don't you kind of take us through like a high level of what you started with and how you progressed to the full stack that you have now?
So as I mentioned, we started with this as a pilot back in 2018. And when that started, we had a speaker. We had actually two of the large IP speakers that A&D supplies that work with InformaCast. We put one of those in the gym and one of those in the cafeteria at our elementary school. And then we connected the system so that our one panic button would work as a as a contact closure, so that it integrated with our door system. From there, the first thing we did was we finished that building. We ended up putting a round ceiling speaker in every single classroom. We added IP display speakers at the end of every single hallway we have. And then in the middle of the hallways, we started putting bidirectional speakers that would do the strobe light with the message and the audio. And then we also started testing out just IP strobe lights as well, and started putting them through the hallways so they would go off when a lockdown happens. That was our first building. And then, as I mentioned, a couple of years later, the Michigan State Police came out with a very nice security grant, which we were fortunate enough to have been awarded, and that allowed us to really take this to the rest of the district. We took the same sort of devices, but we implemented them everywhere. Some of the creative things we did were in our welding lab in our high school. We put strobe lights down a metal piece of conduit and put that right over the welding station. This is mostly just so that if there's an alert, they might not hear it, but at least there's something flashing, and then they can look up and they can then look over to the right and see that clock that's now going with a message. Whatever we can do to get their attention. So we now have, I believe, over 750 devices that are registered with our InformaCast system throughout the district. And that's not actually counting the televisions and the projectors that we've now incorporated, which there's one of those in every classroom. So we have roughly 500 classrooms, I believe, in our district. So we're trying to get it everywhere.
Awesome. All right. I'm just going to give it 1 minute. If anybody has any questions for Jay about what he's doing at Saline, drop it in the chat. One of the questions that came up, and maybe Jay, you want to speak to it, or Kris, Brent is asking, what access controls does everyone use?
Yeah, so we're currently using Brevo for our door access control system. We were on Galaxy beforehand. Both of those integrated right in with the contact control, contact closure. And we're actually starting to pilot a new access control system with a building we're constructing with this bond as we're coming to the end of our contract with Brevo. So we've started exploring Verkada. We have them for our cameras and our visitor management system. So now that they do access control and state that they can work with this system, we're going to pilot those as well.
Okay, this is a good question. I think is really interesting. Well, we won't save it for the end. Let's just talk about it right now. James is asking, how do you account for the power draw of all of these new IP devices? He says, we currently find ourselves running out of capacity on our switches. I guess the infrastructure, that's something that you have to think about for sure. You can't just have 750 devices without internet and power and all that good
Nope.
stuff.
And especially now that everything seems to be POE, that's a great question. We have actually redesigned our infrastructure. For this project, we ended up installing a dedicated POE switch into our stack, into each of our stacks throughout the district, and added more power in there because we were finding that while it doesn't seem they need a lot of power to draw, the speakers we're getting ask for the full 30 watts. So we had to make sure that our switches were accommodating it. We're now upgrading our switch stacks to the 9300 series, and we're getting dual power supplies in every switch to help accommodate for that power draw.
Mm. And Kris, why don't you just chime in, because we're going to be talking about your school in just a minute. Do you have anything about the power draw?
I feel Jay's pain, because when we started this in 2015, we started plugging in devices. All of a sudden I was having devices drop off here and there, and I couldn't find a pattern, but I'd unplug something. It was like playing a game of whack-a-mole. POE is the key. It is absolutely the key. The more devices you have, the more power you need. Nice thing is all the good new switches that you get, they provide enough power so you don't, but like Jay said too, some of these devices take everything they can get. We were doing power limiting on some and just playing a big game for a while. So you really have to have the infrastructure in place to make it successful.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jay. Stick around, but now we're going to jump over and talk about Necedah and what you guys are doing. So Kris, you're probably going to get sick of seeing yourself or of us talking about this, but your school was able to reduce the time to lockdown by over 50%. It's amazing. I've been telling everybody about it. So let's talk about that and how you're using Rise Vision and Singlewire. I just want to say, Kris, Singlewire, I'm so sorry, but Singlewire and InformaCast, where there's probably instances where we're using them interchangeably. They're not, that's not correct, but that's just how it's going to roll today. So let's, yeah. Kris, let's talk about what you guys were doing. So before you switched over to Rise Vision and InformaCast, you guys were using a PA system. Why don't you talk about, the process that you guys went through to reduce your emergency response time so significantly?
Well, our PA system was outdated, wasn't working. It was also the size of my car, and I wanted it removed. I wanted to rip and replace. So that's where we went IP with everything. InformaCast was the solution. So we have IP phones, which we had previously anyway. We put speakers and clocks, speaker clock combinations in classrooms. Hallways, we do the same thing. We have speaker, clock, and then we can scroll. Our gyms have the same thing. So in a lot of different corners of the school, and that in itself increased our time, because getting on the PA system before was a huge hassle. You had to dial a code, wait, and do this, and there's just no way to feasibly do it. InformaCast, when we first started running it in 2015, 2016, the app really wasn't there at that point, but we had it. I used an extension on our phone system. I didn't lock it. I could have, made it so you had to put a passcode in, but I wanted it quick. So if you dialed this extension, it would automatically trigger the alert for the entire school to all the devices. We included the phones in that too. So the phones not only get the message, but if for some reason the teachers can't hear it, which they should most of the time, but you never know, loud classes, a message stays on the phone as well, mostly a persistent message. So when the app came out and then got better with the scenarios, then it became a game changer, because you set up your scenarios, you can have them all pre-built in. All my administrators now, superintendent, walk around the hallway. If something comes up, they put the phone, boom, boom, gone, taken care of. Our secretaries can still do the extension. I am looking at panic buttons. We're redoing our entryways this year through a referendum, so I'm looking into that. I do like some of the stuff Jay talked about with strobes. I'm gonna look into that heavier because there's so many areas where people can't, they need to be alerted, but they have no way of being alerted. So I love that idea. So I'm gonna pursue that for sure. But that, yeah, just that in itself, the ease and the quickness we're able now to lock down and to get messages out quick is just a game changer.
Awesome. I just want to touch on the panic buttons. I know that we chatted about it when we spoke a couple of weeks ago. So sounds like a really good idea in theory to have a panic button. In reality, you're worried about somebody accidentally or inadvertently pressing it. I asked in the chat if anybody has panic buttons and what do you think? Jay, do you have panic buttons at Saline?
Yeah, we do have them. We have one at every building, and we run into that. They're not placed in the best spot. One of them is sideways, so the secretary constantly, if she hits her knee, will bump it and has set the building into a lockdown. And as I'd mentioned before, like if you're not at that spot, it's useless. It's actually more of a lure for somebody else to press it and put the building into a false panic if needed.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's just a big red button. That's just the temptation to push that is too much.
I'd push it. I have no idea what it does, but
Yeah.
I'd push it.
Right? Yeah, for sure. Robert says that they have IP panic buttons in their main office and at the security office. So schools are doing it. And Steven says they have them as well integrated with I think it's Avalon ACM. They're behind security or at the secretary's desk with the plastic cover. I guess the plastic cover is a good idea. So a couple of people do have them. Maybe you guys can all chat about the having panic buttons and keeping students from pressing them. So let's talk about this again. Your school was able to decrease the lockdown time by over 50%. So before, with your older system, when you were using the PA, it could take up to 60 seconds to lock down. I think you told me between 45 and 60 to have everybody out of the hallways and quiet in their rooms. And now you guys can have the school locked down between 15 and 20 seconds. That's outstanding. You shared with me, Kris, that the kind of standard, I guess, for an intruder alert or from the time an intruder is identified to when things can get really hairy is about 30 seconds. So do you have anything else around that lockdown time decrease that you can share with the audience?
And that's the time span we've been given. Again, scenarios could change, but again, that's why it's important to have multiple modes so everybody can as quick as humanly possible. Which again, the Rise Vision, having those TVs and placed in strategic areas makes it much more possible.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about your tech stack. So it looks a little bit, it's obviously very similar to Saline. You guys have the TVs. You guys are using Chrome boxes and Chrome sticks. Why don't you kind of share a little bit about the zone controller? I thought that was really cool, and what you guys are able to do with that.
The zone controller, most of our devices are A&D or advanced network devices. We have speakers, we have clocks, all that stuff. But they have a zone controller that acts as a contact closure. We connected that with our fire alarm system. So when our fire alarm gets triggered, automatically talks to InformaCast. InformaCast can push it out to anything we want to. I can do things with it at that point, but it does. One of them is Rise Vision, so we push that to our TVs. So even if for some reason they don't hear the blaring sounds, they can see it visually. But that contact closure, there's just different ways you can use contact closures. I picked it up at another school, and I like things automated because if you got to remember to do it, you're not going to do it when it matters. So that was the zone control is a big deal. It wasn't that expensive. It's just an IP device that sits on your network and does one thing.
Jay commented or shared in the chat that the average time for an incident is 5 minutes from start to finish. That's quick, but the quicker that you can get everybody secure, the quicker it can be resolved. So
that just came back from one of those recent Michigan State Police conferences we were just at, talking about incident response planning, reunification, and the time for these responses. If I could just piggyback real quick on something Kris was talking about with those zone controllers, we have a few of them here, and one thing I really love about them is we can use them to plug in our computer speaker to play music through our system and set a priority. So while that's going, if an event does happen, you need to set InformaCast, you can trigger it. It will prioritize the notification over the music, cut the music, and start playing the alert. So we really like those zone controllers.
Oh, Jay, that is a good tip. That is one of the requests that we get from Rise Vision all the time. People want to play music, and it's not something that we currently do, but the zone controller, that's a great tip. I'll share with people. Kris, thank you so much. Do you have anything else to add about what you guys are doing at Necedah?
No, but the big thing we just real quickly, we do with every year we do some testing to make sure everything's still working. Cause again, you only use stuff so much and things can happen in the background. But one thing we do prioritize every fall, with the updates that come out in Rise Vision, update that's come out in InformaCast, we sit down and take a look and see we get to know what they are and see what pertains to us. So we'll just follow the newest features and see if it's something that's good. So everybody's been adding features throughout the year. So I don't want it to get stagnant. There might be better ways to do things. We have to constantly rethink and do it better.
Perfect. And this webinar is a great example of kind of seeing what those features are and things that you can add and take away. All right. Thank you, Kris. Moving on. So I want to talk briefly about if you're implementing Rise Vision in your school's tech stack. So this is Mark from Rise Vision with Matt from one of our schools in Texas. We saw him in Austin this year. But some key features about Rise Vision that are really applicable to tech directors is, first of all, I'm going to say it's a cost-effective solution. Talk to lots of other competitors, and I think we're priced pretty great. We're also compatible with your existing IT environment. So whatever media players, TVs, devices you have, Rise Vision works with all of those. We have super fast support, and we're really reliable. I think we have over 99% uptime, and our support will answer any questions within 1 hour, or 1 business hour. Of course, not on the weekends. We have our SOC2 certification. We have district management tools, content scheduling and automation, and you can delegate the software to other departments and users. So one of the things that we want to make your life as a tech director easier. So Rise Vision is something that you can have in your school and delegate it to the communications department, to a teacher who's interested in media. We have some schools who have students managing their Rise Vision. So lots of options there to delegate. And then, of course, the emergency alerts. So we integrate with emergency alert providers, of course, like InformaCast from Singlewire. I also want to share a couple of templates just so you can kind of envision what you can do. So obviously, number one that we're talking about is emergency alerts. So intruders, lockdown, fire, weather. Not everything has to be super scary. There doesn't have to be an active shooter, but sometimes, there's an active tornado and you gotta lock down. We have a lot of zone templates that are super popular with the weather, time and date, news. You can do score updates. You can even link that to like high school sports. So, which is, I'm from Canada, so the high school sports and college sports didn't ever apply to me, but I know it's really big in the US, which I think is great. And then we also have, templates. You can welcome people to the school, the directory, help them find places. And it really helps save time for whoever you have at the front of the school, because they have that information that they can, get where they're going without needing to be directed. So Kris, I'm going to turn it over to you. Share a little bit about Singlewire solutions and how that enhances safety.
Absolutely. So as we said, our software is InformaCast. It's a mass notification and incident management software, but really what it does is it takes all the technology that you already have in place in your schools and ties it all together, breaks down those silos and gets everything working together towards that goal of creating a safe environment. And we really frame that up in 3 main ways. So first is detecting threats. So those inputs that come from panic buttons, monitoring feeds like National Weather Service for severe weather, vape and gunshot detectors, anything that can give you that advanced warning that something is happening. That then leads to the second point, which is the notification component. So that's delivering an alert that is pre-built and connected to those inputs, and then sending that out to all the things that Kris and Jay were talking about, your Rise Vision digital signage, but also your speakers, your desk phones, your desktop computers, SMS and email. So really getting that text, audio, visual to as many devices as possible, all at the same time, all with the same message. And then that last component is, okay, now we've alerted everyone. How do we get this incident resolved? So we have tools for gaining real-time insights. We integrate with critical incident mapping technologies, so you can really see visually where things are happening as events unfold. We have virtual collaboration integrations with tools like WebEx and Microsoft Teams, so you can get those key stakeholders together. So really trying to provide that start to finish incident management through this software by using the technology you already have in place.
Perfect. And Kris, why don't you share a little bit about VisitorAware? This is a really cool product you guys have.
Yeah, so we've added VisitorAware just in the past year, and this is our entry into the visitor management space. So it is a check-in solution. There's no proprietary hardware. You can use iPads, badge scanners, again, whatever technology you have on hand or works best in your environment. And that screens against sex offender, government watch lists, any custom banned or legal injunction lists that you might have. And then we've branched out from that and added some other components as well. So there's some student management capabilities. There is a safety drill component to it as well. So if you have trouble, if you are a large school district and you have to run drills and you're having trouble assigning, scheduling, making sure that they're getting completed, we have tools to help with that. And then lastly, another newer component is our school bus routing, our school bus management piece. And this is a really cool piece of technology that helps with that end of the day or beginning of the day accountability for getting students to and from school. So this will help verify that students get on the correct bus each day, and also provides a check-in and check-out for knowing when they get on and off a bus. So it's just helps with some of that record keeping and accountability and extending that school safety beyond the school grounds.
Nice.
And
I wish
if
this...
I may quick to add on, we use VisitorAware as well as InformaCast and really like it. We use it to manage student as a visitor management system.
Oh, nice. Jay, are you guys using VisitorAware as well? I think that you are.
We're not currently using it. We're using, we were on Raptor and looking at actually integrated in with Verkada at this point. Another V1.
All right.
But
Well,
looking at
I
the
think
school
this is
bus
a good...
management has piqued my interest because we've been looking for a school bus management solution for years now. So that may come to a change pretty soon, Kris.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Who has ever gotten on the wrong bus when they were in school? Ooh, oops, it happens. Mom, I'm
Brett died too, it
somewhere.
looks like.
Yeah, I got on the wrong bus. I don't know where I am. Come pick me up. All right. Okay, so we're coming to the end of or getting kind of close. So if you do have any questions, drop them in the chat or use the Q&A feature, and we're going to start answering those. I just want to kind of touch on some real life emergency scenarios and responses. Kris, did you maybe want to just share for each of these, like what, so let's say we're having a lockdown or we're hold, what is the steps or what happens after that or in that emergency scenario?
Yeah, so I think for any of these situations that you have listed here, the idea is that this is something you've already planned for, right? So this is where our system comes in handy, right? Because you have your messages pre-built, you understand who they're being delivered to, you understand what devices they're being sent to. You might have different groups, so you might have different messages going to your security team than you have going to the rest of the school or the rest of the district. So really, again, it's whatever that input is. So that might be coming from a high-level administrator pressing a panic button. That might be some other trigger that is noticing something is wrong in an area where things shouldn't be. And that is initiating whatever has been set up and really automating that process to begin delivering those messages to all the devices that we've already discussed.
Why don't you, can you just provide some information about this PA or PSAP connectivity? What is that?
Yeah, so PSAP is a public service answering point, and that is really a 911 dispatch center. And so this is becoming more prominent for states, especially those with Alyssa's Law legislation in place. And so this is something that we've begun to branch into with some other technology partners to make sure that our notifications don't just reach the people within a district or school building, but also for really serious situations like those active shooters or maybe a fire or a severe medical emergency, that those notifications are going directly to those first responders. So we're trying to eliminate that extra step and getting those people who can really provide assistance, get them alerted that there's an issue going on at the school and get them to begin responding. We're also working, one of the other things I mentioned is our mapping integrations. So delivering that sort of information as well, because the first responders aren't going to necessarily know the layout of the school. So giving them that visual map, understanding where the incident is happening with that notification is just helping provide additional context.
Yeah, let's just touch on Alyssa's Law. You mentioned that. So that's a new legislation that's coming out, and it requires that public and charter schools have silent panic alert systems that directly link to their local law enforcement. So Texas, New York, New Jersey, Florida, Tennessee, and Utah, it's been passed into law, and then there's a couple other states that are still talking about it. Jay, Kris, your states aren't necessarily required to have this kind of technology, but have you guys are you guys moving forward to comply with Alyssa's Law?
We're looking into it. Yeah.
Yep, we're actually actively meet with our law enforcement for our district on a bi-monthly basis, and we've talked about how we are integrating that trigger from InformaCast into going to their system as well. So they're getting notified, and it's more at this point now making sure that they know when we're in a drill so that they don't come with lights flashing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good idea. All right. Okay, let's move into the questions. So we have a couple already in the chat. Brent, you have your hand up. Can you just drop your question in the chat? That would be great. So Lincoln is asking, do lockdowns and holds have negative effects? I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. Kris, Jay, tech director to tech director, do you kind of know what Lincoln's talking about?
I'm assuming he's talking about drills and stuff. There's been proven data that you can over drill this kind of stuff. We've had teachers that we've had in the fetal position during a drill, a known drill. It wasn't even hiding. Some people have traumatic incidents that happened in their past and struggle to get through. And, there's always a fear of traumatizing kids during drills. I don't know about lockdowns in itself because we do those fairly frequently, even for not major altercation things, but drills can. So we try to balance that. We look at that.
Yeah.
Same here. We find that, yeah, we don't want to over drill them, but at the same time, we need everybody to be prepared. We recognize that it's going to be a scary situation, and we do try and prepare our teachers and those students who are especially sensitive to have them ready and prepared so they're less vulnerable in a drill scenario. But we also recognize if this was a real life incident, it needs to be scary, and this is not something we want them to take lightly. So we still emphasize just how important this is.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance between having you be kind of ready for it and the first time it happens, or not necessarily being a real event. We're just running through it and nothing bad's gonna happen. Yeah, so if you do have questions, drop it in the chat. There was one that I was going to wait and answer. Hold on, let me scroll up. Rudy, this is a good question. Jay, Kris, how do you manage patching all of these devices? So this kind of goes back to when you were talking about just the sheer number of devices that you have. So how do you manage patching them?
We outsourced. We had a contractor come when we were doing our installation and helped. Because in the end, we did run a single cable for every single speaker, and that required a new run to each of our IDF closets. So we it was a lot, and we made very sure during that we were checking every single port they went into, made sure all the configuration was right. It was a lot of back and forth to get it all up and running, but make sure that we were confident that it was on. And then even then, you know, as Kris was saying, you know, we still go through and we test the system at least twice a year, just to make sure that things are still going off, because you never know when something might go offline.
All right. I just have one last question that I want to send to Kris. So Kris, when we spoke, one of the things that you had talked about was zones and the different scenarios. So as some advice to other tech directors, can you just kind of touch on what you shared with me about those zones and scenarios and kind of making it work for your school?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to start looking ahead to what messages you would think you're going to be using. We set up a test thing in my office, which was joyous with 8,000 speakers going off, but we learned how to set up zones, because not every message should go to everyone. Like if we're one K-12 building, but we don't necessarily, we'll lock down our high school much more frequently than an elementary. Very rarely do we do the elementary. So we make sure that they get informed, but they get informed differently than the high school will send a different message. But I think it's really important to just anticipate what messages you're getting, and then as new situations arise, adjust the system to fit your needs. And that's something we've done, and we've continued to do. It's a continual evaluation process.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We're getting right down to the wire. So if you do have another question, drop it in the chat. We'll try and answer it before our time ends. I want to announce the Rise Vision Media Player winner. So this person is going to receive a Rise Vision Media Player. This is part of our hardware as a service offering. So it's completely managed by us, but we want you to try it and see what you think. And you're also, let's see. We also have the $100 gift card. I'm wanting to see if the winner wants to give the gift card, to take the gift card, or pass it to the next person. So Rick Ganger, Rick, you are our winner of the media player. If you want to just announce yourself in the chat, if you're still here. So you are the winner, and do you want the gift card, or do you want to draw somebody else? All right, Rick is not responding. I will email him. And Rick, congratulations. You get the media player, and we'll send you also the gift card courtesy of Singlewire. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you to Kris and Jay for being here and sharing about their schools. I want to just drop some information. If you want to learn more about either product, take a screenshot of this. I'm going to send out an email with the recording and the presentation deck so you can look at it again. But thank you all for being here. And thank you again to Kris, both Kris's and Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everybody.